right, what's up? What's up? Let me just make sure this works because I'm using a different microphone, trying something different. All right, what's up? What's up? Let me just make sure this works because I'm using a different microphone, trying something different. All right, is it working? What's up? What's up? I don't think I like this sound. Make sure this works because I'm using a different microphone. All right, give me a second. I'm gonna switch back to my regular set of microphone. I don't like this set. I'll try something different because it's kind of hard reading the book, because this is the book I'm gonna be going over. It's kind of hard reading the book and having this microphone. So let me just give me a minute. All right, now let me see if this works. All right, hold on. Let me see. Test, test, test. Let's go. Yeah, I think this one sounds better. Let me see. All right, we're just gonna stick with this mic. I'll just adjust fire. But so this is the book that I want to go over. It's this one right here. Zachariah Sitchin. Let me make this bigger real quick. Here we go. This one right here. This is the book. The Wars of Gods and Men by Zachariah Sitchin. So this was, I think, the third book in the series, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get to it because I got the notes over here in this PowerPoint. Like I said, I wanted to start implementing PowerPoints to this because it helps grab people's attention, I guess. So why not, right? So yeah, I just decided to do that. But so let me see. Let me go to the first slide. So yeah, this book is by Zachariah Sitchin. And this presentation is brought to you by me, Rebirth of the Word. I've read every single one of Zachariah Sitchin's books, so I know his information very well. And also, as you can see, as always, I have tabs for each and every thing that I found interesting. And it's only because of the fact that what I've read and stuff like that. The first, when I got into this idea of UFOs and extraterrestrials and life outside of Earth, and who these individuals could possibly be, it was because of Eric von Daniken's book, Chariots of the Gods. And then, of course, Zachariah Sitchin came after to try to answer some of the questions that Eric von Daniken basically had. But as always, you have to do your due diligence just to see if you can get the correct information, right information. And if not, you're doing yourself the service. So, all right, let's go to the slides right here. So it was published for, and I got this information from Amazon, by the way. So I went off of Amazon's information. So if it changes, that's on them, but I doubt it. It says it was published in 1992 as part of the Earth Chronicles, and it's part of the Earth Chronicles, and it focuses on ancient texts describing wars between gods, who are known as the Anunnaki, and they're spelled different ways, of course, and their role in shaping human history. So this right here is basically just, an expansion of the other two books. It combines Mesopotamian, biblical, and other mythological sources, like even the Indus Valley civilization and even Egyptian and stuff like that. So that's what Zachariah Sitchin actually uses in all his books when he came to the idea of what he came to in his theories and so on and so forth, right? Um, so basically, in every one of his books, including this one, the Anunnaki were advanced beings who came to Earth from Nibiru. Now, you already know, most of you guys who've been following me know that I believe they came from the depths of the seas, not necessarily outside of Earth's atmosphere, but within, our interterrestrial, basically. And conflicts between them mirrored between nations. Even that's why a lot of people can say that what's happening now is the same thing that's been happening for thousands of years. It's just history repeating itself, basically. One is going back and forth with the other. And mythology as an encoded history. So basically, what's written in mythology, and Zachariah Sitchin, I agree with him on this part, on any of his books, and just his idea. Mythology tells past history. We just have to do our due diligence to figure out if it's whether it's accurate or not. We can't, just you know, go off of our own wannabe theories or narratives. We have to actually put a lot of sources and information back together and stuff like that. So key things: wars of the gods reflected in human wars. Was man born a warrior, or were we taught to make war? I'm gonna say that again because I probably messed that up. Wars of the gods reflected in human wars. Was man born a warrior, or were we taught to make war? That's a good question, right? Get into that. Gods coming from planet Nibiru and engaging in a series of fierce battles, and that's supposed to have been happening here on planet Earth. There was supposedly, according to Zachariah Sitchin's theories, that they had a fight, an argument on their home planet Nibiru. One person left there to come here. Communication came back and forth. More came to planet Earth, and then eventually different individuals wanted to rule different parts of the land, and just like how we are right now, war broke out. And he uses modern sources such as NASA photographs of Earth. Now, I actually find that kind of funny, because what I've learned is that there is no just 100% accurate picture of NASA. NASA is, and sometimes, and a lot of people will say this, is that it's AI generated, or it's artistically generated, however you want to take that. So it's not necessarily, you can take your telescope, your cell phone, your camera, and go take a picture of something, and boom, that's the photo. No, that's not how that works at all. That's not even close to being what it is. So they just have to they're taking pictures of multiple things and they're putting in layers. It's just a whole complex way of how they get pictures. So that's pretty interesting. Like I said, he uses his sources and interpretations. And he uses the Mesopotamian text. He uses Egyptian text. He uses a different text. He used the Enuma Elish for his flood stories. The Sumerian king lists for how long they was on this planet for, and so on and so forth. Then he takes those and has the biblical parallels between Genesis, Exodus, and just different prophetic texts. And then he got his cross cultural myths like the Hindu Vedas, like the flying machines and weapons, which some people will call the Vimanas as the flying machines. So that's what he gives his different interpretations and ideas using his ideas of what he read from the ancient text himself. But there is a lot of controversy and criticism. Scholars and criticize the lack of evidence and linguistic errors. So, like a lot of things, like I've shown before, about how he talks about Nephilim, but if you go to the ancient Hebrew text and you go to the Strong Concordance, Nephilim just means falling. That's it. That's all it means. And he has different theories where I'm actually going to be doing another. I'm going to be doing all his books, so you'll see where his. If you keep following me, subscribe to my channel, you'll see there's a book called the Anunnaki Chronicles, which is unpublished books by him after he passed away that his niece published. And I can show you how he gives 3 different meanings of what Nephilim means, along with what Anunnaki means. And basically, he just says those who came from uh, heaven to earth. And there's different versions of that. And like I said, I have all his books and I'm going to be going over it. So you don't have to worry about trusting my word. I'm going to have it because I'm going to go over it and I give you the page number and all that other stuff. So be on the lookout for that. And the other one is that he says cylinder seal VA 243 says that there's a planet Nibiru. And first of all, cylinder seal VA 243 is not even Sumerian, it's Akkadian. So when people say the Sumerians said this, that the Anunnaki came from planet Nibiru, they're incorrect. It wasn't the Sumerians that said it. It was written in their language, but it was the Akkadians who recorded it as such, meaning that the Akkadians just used the Sumerians. Well, I can't say they used because they had their own language when the Sumerians started also. They just had, it was just, theirs was just minor differences between the two. And they both, from what I understand, used loan words because they had to, because they were practicing trade. So in order to trade, both people who was trading had to at least know the basics of understanding of trading. So they both had to have some kind of language and recording way to trade their individual trade, I guess you could say. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, that's why I always say that I understand why they say the Sumerians have the first writing system, but I don't also agree with that for different reasons, which I also shared in the past also, but definitely I understand why. But a lot of people do uh, criticize his work because of the simple fact he doesn't actually give information. Like I said, cylinder seal VA 243. That's actually Akkadian also. And that has more to do with German than it does with Sumerian, talking about planet Nibiru. And I've talked about that in the past because I broke down the translation of the actual tablet in the past. So and I got the information from Dr. Michael S. Heiser. So he broke it down. I shared what he shared because of the fact that he broke it down and showed how to, get the information and where to get the translations from and so on and so forth. So he's accused of pseudo history, but influential, but highly influential in alternative history, meaning that he's big in the I'm going to say in the ancient alien worlds, because a lot of people who follow ancient aliens, who believe in aliens, they want to they can't help but take what Zachariah Sitchin says and use it because that's the only thing that gives them some kind of belief towards their narrative and so on and so forth. This is not me trying to bash them or anything like that. That's just me saying, hey, look, um, you want something to go with your beliefs. So Ancient Alien Show is the closest thing that you can go with. But the problem is the Ancient Alien Show actually likes to narrate stuff for a little bit. Hey, a few seconds real quick. I'm going to grab something real quick. I had to get some of that Fanta. My throat was getting itchy, but it's just funny that he has his interpretation, and then people can actually tell you where his information was wrong at. And I'm that type of person where if you want to um, tell me to believe in something that you believe in, you're going to have to give me the same sources that got you to believe what you wanted to believe in. The same way that I have the same sources that have me, believing in the many different theories that I believe in. You know what I'm saying? So, he like I said, he uses his different texts. He used the biblical parallels. He uses cultural myths and all this other stuff. So the Enuma Elish, Sumerian Kings list. A lot of people don't know that the Enuma Elish, that's not even Sumerian either. That's Babylonian. So when people say the Sumerians said that, talk about Tiamat, and they talk about, the planet Nibiru and all this other stuff, and go read the Enuma Elish for yourself. Just read it. I'm telling you, just read it. You'll be shocked if you actually read the translations, and multiple different ones too. Don't just read one. Read multiple different ones. You'll see why there's a lot of exaggerations in there. But the sparked interest in ancient astronauts and ancient technology, like I said, that's all ancient aliens. Then you have the cultural impact, like I said, the UFO researchers. You got UFO Twitter is big, really big, and ancient alien theories are big, and they follow the ancient alien theories, and a lot of them go off of Zachariah Sitchin's ideas. Most of them do. You look at most connections, it goes back. This is Zachariah Sitchin. I'm not even kidding like that. I'm not even joking. You're going to read, you'll even read about people who are academics, you know what I'm saying? So, he inspired books, documentaries, and debates. Even to this day, people believe in Planet Nibiru, but there's not one cuneiform tablet identifier out there that says that Planet Nibiru exists. Yes, Nibiru exists. It was also known as Nippur, which is also, guess what, in Mesopotamia, right? So, yeah, it did exist, but it wasn't a planet outside. And guess what? Nibiru is the city is not the oldest city. So just think about that for a second. I talked about that in the past, but like I said, he creates a lot of debates. And like I said, unless you can provide a cuneiform tablet that says it, then bring it. But guess what? The Sumerians never said that, because guess what? Cylinder Seal VA243 is not Sumerian, it's Akkadian, and the Enuma Elish is not Sumerian, it is Babylonian. So, like I said, if you want to say that the Akkadians talked about Planet Nibiru, now give me the Akkadians cuneiform tablet identifier, right? Just give us the tablet identifier. So many people say they can translate the tablets. Why haven't they been with all this technology that we have today, right now? Not one person who said that there is a Planet Nibiru that said that they have the text. They will sit here and show you, hey, look, this is what it is. What they do is they say that they came from the heavens. Well, I've talked about the heavens, and I'm not really here trying to argue this debates, but I'm trying to show you how a debate is. Heavens were known as mountains, also higher on the ground, higher than everybody else. That's why when their people came down from the mountains to the people below, their messengers, also known as angels, gave messages from the gods who sit up on top of those mountains. This is no different than Mount Olympus. I went in details about this before, but I'm not here to create a debate. I'm here to show you how debates are. When people hear heaven, they believe outside of Earth's atmosphere. Oh, something just hit me. Oh man, my AirPod just busted out, came out. That's the one thing. Oh yeah, let me also say this. That's before I forget, because I'm looking at the screen. Cult following around the Earth Chronicles series is deep. So when there's, like I said, remember when I said UFO Twitter is big? When they start talking about Zachariah Sitchin and this, that, and the third, if somebody comes in there like me, who comes in there and says, hey, well, there's no cuneiform tablet identifier that says that, the first thing they say is, who are you? Well, then, of course, I got to tell them who I am. And then they said, well, that doesn't mean anything. Zachariah Sitchin spent 30 years researching this. Okay, that's fine. He spent 30 years researching this. That's fine. So does it take somebody 30 years of research to be on his level, or does it take somebody to do 30 years of what he researched, do a few years of what he researched, and also with what other people said? Do you have to have 30 years of research to be considered on somebody's level? And I don't think so. And that's not a good way to judge somebody, because all you have to do is just show the facts and that's it. And he never really showed a cuneiform tablet identifier. Yes, he took different things from different places and said, see, they were talking about something outside of Earth's atmosphere. Like I said, I've also read from the same sources that he said he read from, which comes from Oxford University. They said that they came from the depths of the sea, which I've shared in the past. So that's how that's going right now. So we'll keep that going. Book frames mythology as a history of interplanetary conflict. So I mean, like I already talked about how they had their issue on their planet and they went somewhere else. It raises questions about the origins of human civilization. Um, there's no doubt in my mind when he talks about the Anunnaki creating humans. There's absolutely proof that there is actually cuneiform tablets that says that. I went over that in the past. You can go to the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature, or their book, The Literature of Ancient Sumer, which is basically the same thing. And read that and they'll tell you that there's cuneiform tablets out there, so I don't even have to question that. Yeah, you're not raising no questions about the origins of human civilization. According to what's first recorded in history, I know what the origins of human civilization is, and it's written in the ancient literature of Sumer, the book, or you can go, like I said, to the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature and read it for yourself. ETCSL. Were the wars of men really wars of gods? Now, that's not a question to me. I know that every war that they talk about, as far as in the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, you can find some type of traces of that in those areas already, because they've been able to find documentation, maps, and so on and so forth to say, hey, this place was a war between the Akkadians and the Sumerians, or this was a war between the Syrians and the Hittites, or whoever it was that they wanted to. So thank you for this part. You can purchase my book on Amazon, which was a bestseller, Journey Through the Origins of History. But right now, I'm keeping that up there because that's a promotion for getting my book. So now I'm going to read these tabs. There we go. Let me read these tabs of things that I found interesting, and I'll go over more into it of what I've read. So the first tab was that it says that there indeed had been such a time. Egyptian traditions left no doubt. The Greek historian Herodotus, 5th century BC, on his extensive visit to Egypt, was given by the priests details of the pharaonic dynasties and reigns. So yeah, of course, that was already accurate for me. I didn't have to even question that. That was just something that I feel like not everything shows that Zachariah Sitchin is incorrect. Dates can change. Dates change only because of the time frame that you get these dates in, but for the most part, the core information is pretty much accurate. Manetho was the first known historian to have divided the Egyptian rulers into dynasties, a practice continued to this day. So in when did I say that this book was in? 1990, something like that. To this day was the time. And basically it's just saying that, let me see. I want to read something. Okay, yeah. So basically it's just that it's a this was basically the king's list, where they started the Egyptian king list. So everybody, when I was talking about the Sumerian king list, well, the Egyptians have their own king list. And actually, he here has a page where he gives his I'll just show it real quick, where he gives a little idea of it, which was pretty cool because just so you guys know, I went to a museum in Charleston, South Carolina yesterday. It's the oldest museum in America, and it had a mummified Egyptian woman in there, and it had a coffin tomb, a coffin of a woman with Egyptian writing on it. So it was pretty cool. So, and it even has Sumerian cuneiform tablets. So I got to see that too. So that was pretty cool. So, and that's the only place you get to see that stuff at, because it's only one of those kinds there. So that's pretty interesting to know that it's in South Carolina. So if you stay in South Carolina near the oldest museum there, I can't remember the name. I can't remember the actual name, what they called it at this moment. But yeah, it's in Charleston, South Carolina. So the next tab is basically, let's see. Okay, so I'll just read it. It says Ta and other gods were called in Egyptian NTR. That's how it's spelled. Because I'm going to say it exactly how he spells it out. Guardian or watcher. They had come to Egypt. The Egyptians wrote from Tyre or Tyre, because some people say it differently, the far foreign land, whose name Ur meant Odin. Okay, he says Ur meant Odin. Ur meant Odin, but could have also been the actual place name, a place well known from Mesopotamian and biblical records. The ancient city of Ur in southern Mesopotamia and the straits of the Red Sea, which connected Mesopotamia and Egypt, were called Ta-Neter. Okay, the place of the gods, the passage by which they had come to Egypt, that the earliest gods did come from the biblical lands of Shem, Shem, is additionally borne out by the fact that the names of these olden gods were of Semitic, Akkadian derivation. Thus, Ta, which had no meaning in Egyptian, meant he who fashioned things by carving and opening up in the Semitic tongues. Okay, now that's interesting. Then it talks about in time after 9,000 years, according to Manetho, Ra, a son of Ta, became the ruler over Egypt. His name too had no meaning in Egyptian, but because Ra was associated with a bright celestial body, scholars assumed that Ra meant bright. So bright sun. Okay, we do know with greater certainty that one of the nicknames Tem, Tem, had the Semitic connotation, the complete, the pure one. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. So let's see. The next tab is about, let's see. Okay, so this is the whole chapter not the whole chapter, but the whole page. And it's basically about Osiris and Seth. Let's see. What can I find that's interesting about Osiris and Seth in here? Let's look. Let's just pick something. Let's pick a page. There's a lot. It's actually the whole thing. So that's what. Okay, here we go. Many legends have been found concerning the events that followed. Legends copied and recopied on papyri, forming chapters of the Book of the Dead, or used as verses in the pyramid text. Put together, they reveal a major drama that involved legal maneuvering, kidnapping for purposes of state, a magical return from the dead, homosexuality, and finally a great war, a drama in which the stake was the divine throne of the gods. So that's actually interesting. I read the pyramid text too. I'll be going over that too. Don't worry. It's actually a pretty interesting book. I know a lot of people say that every one of them has their Bible, and they say that to each one of them. So let's see. All right, so I guess this was his way of concerning that the Greeks knew about black, and he says black. Well, he says African ram god of Egypt, and he does say black a lot in these different books. So he says Agipin stood for the African ram god of Egypt, and Hermes paralleled the god Thoth. So basically, what he was saying was both the African gods Thoth and the African ram god uh, and Hermes, they were all African. So it's interesting that he says that because I mean, most people already know that the Greeks got most of their information from um, the Egyptians, who are African, by the way. Here we go. Jealousy. Okay, so this is about Buddha because it says Buddha on this tab and last paragraph. So what I'd like to do also is when I do some of these tabs, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. I like to write quick notes. Now I know I spelled that wrong. I think I just spelled it wrong because I had to trying to make sure I don't know why I spelled it wrong. Just being quick, I guess. But anyway, I put little things like that on there. So this one says the last paragraph. So I'm gonna see where I needed to read it at. Okay, so I guess it's because okay, here I just read this right here. It says, oh, wow, this whole thing. Maybe I should read this whole thing because I'm reading it. No, I'm just gonna read it. Okay, yeah. Oh, no, I didn't spell it wrong. Okay, so this is why. Filled with suspicion, the gods demanded to know who the true father was, the lawful husband for the abductor god. Abductor god. Okay, the abductor god. Okay. She proclaimed that the boy was the son of Soma, celestial immortality, and she named him Buddha, and he spelled it Buddha. So that's where I got it from. So that was interesting, and I think I found that interesting because of the abductor god part. Because there's a god out there known as an abductor. Think about that. So this one is all of chapter 4. So it's the Earth Chronicle. So this is just, it literally says on the tab all of chapter 4. So I'm not going to read all the chapter 4, but I'll probably let me see if I can go over. Okay, so here we go. When I talk about how the Sumerians, their word for God was Dingir, Dingir. This isn't the only place that I learned that from. I've learned that's also on the website for the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. But like I said, not everything that Zachariah Sitchin said was wrong. It's just he did also make up a lot of stuff. So I will give credit where credit is due, but I will also, call out the exaggeration. It says right here. Here we go. I'll just read this whole thing. No less illuminating was the discovery that the Hittites and the Hurrians, though they pronounced the deities' names in their own language, wrote the names employing Sumerian script. Even the in quotations divine determinative used was the Sumerian din dot gur, literally meaning the righteous ones of the rocket ship. That's not what dinger means. It don't say nothing about rocket ship. And I'm telling you, that's why that cracked me up. Yo, look up the meaning of dinger, Dingir. Yo, this dude, I can't believe he said this is why I say, man, if you don't do your due diligence, this is how you fall into this realm of staying ignorant. Okay. This dude literally said, no lies illuminating was the discovery that the Hittites and the Hurrians, they pronounced the deity names in their own language, wrote the names employing Sumerian script. Even the, in quotations, divine determinative used was the Sumerian din, din, dot gir, all capital letters, literally meaning, in quotations, the righteous ones, in quotations. Then he has din, din, in quotations, of the rocket ship. And then he says gur right after that, GIR. So basically what he's saying, so what he's basically saying is the righteous ones means din, din, okay? And gur means of the rocket ship. Now, let's see. Since we got some time, I don't have my book, and I should have my book, and maybe when I edit this, I will find it. But let's see if I can find me a source, because I know it'll be in here somewhere. I'll be able to find it quick. Yeah, I know what it means. I'm looking for. I just want to make sure where I can find the source at. Lexicon, blah blah blah. Yeah. I know Jeremy Black. Yeah, I know it's in the book. Can you give me? I know. Yes, I know. Give me a link. Give me a link. Give me a link. Give me a link. I need a link. Just give me a link. That's all I'm asking for. I keep asking. So give me a link. Show me. Show me. I said, show me. Show me. Show. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, here we go. Penn Museum. Perfect. 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 Because that's one of my other favorite sites. But where is it at? Where does it say that? Hold on. Can we do Control F? Girl. Nope, it's not there. So, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. This might be better because I used this before too. Because I know I have it in one of those books. I just want to. Okay, so when I do these, I don't necessarily look for over it to bring sets. Like I said, when I do these, I usually only do these so that way I can basically refresh my memory, and then I have to go look for the sources again. And that's what I like to do. And this is a way for me to remember how Dinger, what it really means, but I'm having trouble finding an actual link because I guess I have to go through another link, through another link, through another link. And let me see, maybe this will be it. This might be it. Let me see. Okay, yeah, see, that one doesn't have it either. Okay, so there's different gurs, gur. Okay, it does mean different things. I know that, but I'm trying. Let me see. Let me go to ETCS. So basically, it means like something like foot or a leg. Like I don't know how to explain it, and that's why I'm trying to see if I can find it. And here, let me see, because I know it's in one of the glossaries that I have. But let's see. Let's go to the glossary because. Hey, you know what? Matter of fact, I'll show you what I'm doing so that way you can see exactly what I'm doing. So this is what I'm doing right here. I'm looking. So I'm on the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. Okay, so yeah, it means different things. So here, so this is what I found from different ones. So this is like I found this one means like type of fish because I know that one of them means leg. Oh shoot, you can't see it. Hold on, let me. There we go. So this is the electronic text corpus of Sumerian list. This is the glossary. So I know Gur means different things in different places, like in Akkadian, Babylonian, and stuff like that. But you got Gur 2, which is depending on how you're looking at it. Because he doesn't give you the actual source of it, right? Like if I was to look at where he said Gur, this is where I would go at, right? Here, I give you another example. I'll give you a really and I'll show you something else too that I can show you while I'm here. You might like this. Let me show you. Let me give you. Hold on. I'm about to give you another example of what I mean. Hold on. Scrolling too fast. Okay, so you see how it doesn't have Nibiru all the way on there? It's because there's certain ways that you have to look at it. So even though it doesn't have Nibiru, you see how it says Nibiru? So you have, and you see how it doesn't say Nibru either, Nibru. So there's just different ways of looking at it. So basically, let me just give you, if I was trying to find the source of what he says, okay, we'll go to this one, Gur. We'll go to the one next to it, right? When I try to find something that somebody says, I use these sources. So if they can't give me an actual source for where they're at, then I'm stuck in believing what they mean. So when he says rocket ship here, I want to know where the hell did he get the word "gur" from, right? Because when I pull up "gur" that I've read in the past, it meant like foot, but it wasn't the Sumerians. So that's why I'm trying to figure out which I guess you could say cultural language he's using for his information, because in reality, like I said, I want to be able to look at the same thing that he's looking at, so that way I can be on the same page that he's on. And right now I'm stuck because I can't find where Dengar means anything like rocket ship, right? Like I don't know where it means like Den means, maybe I should have looked up Den real quick. And what that meant. But it's just simple things like that. If you can't show me where you learned it at, then I can't take your word for it. So I'm just stuck like, okay, that's you believe in aliens, so you think this is a rocket ship. So the next tab is, as is now known, indeed there were. These were the cities, urban cities of Sumer. The Sumer, in quotations, in the title, King of Sumer and Akkad, it was as a century of archaeological discoveries and scholarly research has established the land where civilization began nearly 6,000 years ago, where suddenly and inexplicably, as though out of nowhere, there appeared a written language and literature, kings and priests, schools, temples, and doctors and astronomers, high-rise buildings, canals, docks. He's just basically saying everything started there. And I'm just going to stop it right here, and I'm going to read it again, because this is what. First of all, let me tell you why, because it's kind of crazy. Because I'm going to have to break it down. So this is what he says. It was a century of archaeological discovery, scholarly research has established the land where civilization began nearly 6,000 years ago. I don't agree. I don't disagree with that. A lot of people, like I said, already gave you my idea that the civilization started there because of their writing system, pictographic script, trading, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? That's what people say because of what they research and done in their archaeological digs there since then. And how did they find this information? Well, it's very simple how they found this information. They found this information because they were trying to find information about the Bible. And guess what? When they was finding it, they found a lot of older stuff in Egypt, which I will talk about. And that's why I said there's a lot of arguments about the writing system, because the hieroglyphics has been around way before the Sumerian writing system, right? So it's just crazy. So this is what he says. So I don't disagree with the 6,000 years ago part. Like I said, the time frame can go here and there, and depending on what you consider civilization, there you go. Your argument starts there. But this is where it says there appeared a written language and literature. First of all, 6,000 years ago, they weren't talking about literature. When they first started their writing system, they started their writing system because of agriculture. It wasn't until later on, when the Akkadians started taking over, much later, and this is around the 18th century BC, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it says. In matter of fact, you know what? The electronic text corpus Sumerian literature gives you the dates right there, so you can go look at the dates. The dates, and I actually did a PowerPoint presentation on this, about how the dates from the ancient literature of Sumer and and the website, the Electronic Text Corpus of Sumerian Literature, gives kind of two different dates on when the texts were written. But I can tell you right now, when the civilization first started, that's not when they started talking about the Anunnaki and literature and all this other stuff. It was for trading, okay? And it started with pictographic scripts. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. Matter of fact, you will find trade in other countries, not just in Africa, but you can find them in around the world around the same time as the Sumerian civilization, which goes to the credit of about 3200 BC. The time frame for the first civilization, according to Dr. Nili Summit from Bar-Ilan University, which I've had the pleasure of taking a class from her. She says around 3200 BC because of the writing system. So around 3200 BC. Then he says kings and priests. Well, kings and priests is just a modern term of what we use today. They definitely had some type of hierarchy before then. Even if it was a tribal leader, that would be a type of a king. And priests were mostly people who looked up at the sky at that time. They weren't religious people. From what I understand, priests started off as individuals who were looking at the sky. Then they took what they seen in the sky and turned it into mythology. And then that's when, and sometimes in most cases, if the priest wasn't the individual who was looking at the sky, sometimes the priest could be considered the king, and vice versa. So we'll just leave that there. It says that schools and temples. Well, okay, I can understand the writing part because when you look at the Sumerian civilization, they were mostly trying to teach their people a writing system. So they had a school, and I think the school was actually called Eduba, which is Edubba, which was their way of calling it a school. Doctors and astronomers. Well, like I said, priests were the ones that was looking at the sky. So he kind of missed that point right there. But doctors, we've had doctors from the get go. I mean, Dr. Margaret Mead, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, her name. She was an anthropologist who says about 15,000 years ago, civilization started because somebody took the time to help somebody else survive while their femur bone was healing, and they were able to tell by the way the bone was healed and how long the person lived after that healing of the bone. So somebody was there to take care of it, and she considers that civilization to happen in about 15,000 years. Now, if you go try to look up this as a fact check me type thing, I can tell you right now, you won't find anything that actually says she said that verbatim. They say that she was giving a class or a lecture or something like that, and one of the students there or individuals that was attending remembered that and quickly shared it with the world. So just like mythologies, some things can be changed around and misworded and stuff and put into the way that the person interpreted it. But the point is that she understood that civilization started because of that femur bone. High-rise buildings, canals, docks, and ships. Well, high-rise buildings, I could possibly believe that. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what you consider a high-rise building in the Sumerian time frame. But in the high-rise of right now, I'm looking like downtown building skyscrapers. I'm sure they didn't have that. So I'm probably thinking like maybe a 2-story, maybe possibly a 3-story building. I'm sure that that's not hard for anybody that's building anything for their home. Canals. That's false. There's been people that from around the world were able to use agricultural ways when they started doing agriculture to bring water to different places. So we'll just leave that there. Docks that's made out of wood that you have something to hook a boat up to. I don't know. Maybe the people just put their stuff on the shore. I don't know, but and regulations changed it. And ships. What kind of ships did they have? Can you tell me what kind of ships they have? Are you saying ships? Because that's a very vague term. And intensive agriculture. Well, that's not true because everybody used some type of intensive agriculture around that time. You can find that from every civilization from around the world that there's been intense agriculture from around there. And advanced metallurgy. Well, you can also find that around the world. What do you consider advanced metallurgy? Please tell me. I need to know, what do you consider advanced metallurgy? Because me hearing that doesn't mean nothing when I understand that people in Mesoamerica were probably doing some type of metallurgy around the same time, even before their so-called civilizations actually started. So that's interesting. A textile industry, trade and commerce. Like I said, trading had to happen between two places, so they couldn't been the first. It had to been two people that were the first. So who was the other people around the same time? You can't trade with different people. You can't have a trade if you're not trading with somebody else, right? You know what I'm saying? You can't have a bet. You can't call yourself a trader if you're not able to trade with somebody else. Meaning that you're trading, you're giving somebody else something for what you have, and that means they're part of the same trade of that. So who was the other individual? Was that right? Let's see. Then laws and concepts of justice and morality. We all know that. I mean, you don't have to have a civilization to get a spanking or held in some type of jail cell because you're a danger to society or something. I mean, you don't have to have uh, a civilization. Cosmological theories. The sky was people's television at that time. I definitely know for a fact that the Mesopotamians aren't the first. And tales and records of history and prehistory. We all know that's not true because they talk about this is what's going to get a little punchline for people, but there are people out there that talk that what's considered an advanced civilization before the Sumerians, right? And I give you an idea. Let's just say the Atlanteans. Boom! I threw that out there. Let's go to the next tab, y'all. The wars of the Odin gods. This is chapter 5. Let's see. But there were, okay, let's see. Yeah, but first there were the lingering and bitter struggles between the house of Anu and the house of Elelu, and enmity that burst out onto the war of the Titans. It was a war that pitted the gods who are in heaven against the gods who are upon dark-hued earth. Okay, dark-hued earth. That's what he says. He says it was in its last climatic phase an uprising of the Igigi. Now, this is what's interesting to me: the electronic text corpus, Sumerian literature of ancient Sumer. When you go to read what an Igigi is, Igigi, when you actually look at the Oxford translations, they say they are known as the great gods, and the Anunnaki was just a name for the gods. So that means the Igigi were the greater gods, greater than the Igigi or than the Anunnaki. Now, I went over that before, showed my sources and so on and so forth, just like I'm doing with this book. I am actually reading what I've learned from the book and not what I believe it is or what I feel like. Let me turn this light down. It might be affecting the cover because it's plastic over it. But yeah, this is the book right here. I actually take the time and read the book and read what it says. So it's not my what I'm saying, it's what he's saying. But like I said, it's interesting. He says the dark hued earth. Do you think the earth would be a dark hued earth from space if it's a watery planet? Blue at that? Let me know. Lil Vi, tell me. Let me know. I know you probably listen. And tell me, do you think the Earth is a dark hued Earth? Would you describe it as such if you was coming from a different planet? If you seen blue, if you're not there, I know you're working. That's cool. But if anybody that's listening, when this drops on YouTube, let me know. The conspiracy of and this is the other thing on that tablet, Alelu and Anu. That was the fight that I was talking about. That Alelu and Anu, they had a fight, and then Alelu left, came to Earth, found gold, told the Anunnaki god Anu, and he shipped some people here, got them going, and they started taking the gold from planet Earth and bringing it to planet Nibiru for the atmosphere. Now that's according to Zachariah Sitchin. There is no cuneiform tablet that says that at all. So the next tablet, the conspiracy of Zu and his evil plotting remained also in mankind's memory, evolving into a fear of bird-like demons who can cause affliction and pestilence. Okay. Some of these demons were called Lilu, okay, Lilu, LLU. It's spelled differently, of course. A term that played on a double meaning to the Howl and of the night, their female leader, the Lutu, also known as Lilith, okay, was depicted as a naked winged goddess and bird-like feet. Now, this is accurate from what he says, but that's not Sumerians. That usually comes from like the Babylonians and stuff. But Lilith is supposed to have been Adam's first wife, and she didn't want to be below uh, Adam, however way you want to take that. So she dipped out, and she was cursed by God and Adam. For whatever reason, they felt like she needed to be cursed, and she became a serpent type individual. Some people say snake, some individuals say a dragon, some people say a vampire. What I've went over in the past, I talked about Samuel Noah Kramer, which he actually mentions Lilith as a vampire-like state. I've actually have a podcast discussion about that, or not a podcast. I actually have a recording of that on my YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, if you're just listening on Twitter, because this should be the only place that I'm streaming to right now is Twitter X, because you guys get the first dibs on what I share. Then everybody else, even, like I said, I'm not trying. If I wanted to monetize my stuff, all this stuff would go straight to YouTube every time. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show the passion that I have for this, because if people really do care, all you gotta do is just go back to my YouTube later and just press play. And just let that bad boy run for about an hour. But nah, it's all good. I'm just trying to tell you that this is on Twitter because I'm trying to show you guys that this is where most of the people say that they think they want this information. So I'm here to share it the best way I can through the best means that I can. So Lilith is actually known as a vampire, according to Samuel Noah. Like I said, I went over that on my YouTube. I actually went live first here on Twitter, so it's one of the videos on here. And he says this. I've actually, it was when I was countering AI as also live on there. I can't remember. It's one of the Samuel Kramer books that I went over. It's on my YouTube. So if you go to the live, it should be on the live. If not, it's in the video section. Where it was pre-recorded, or on Twitter X first, because sometimes I do on YouTube. But you'll be able to see it. And but what's interesting about this is what he says about her. It's the way he describes her, like a bird-like demon, because she's like a bird-like demon. Was almost like she's like a dragon. That's why I said she was like a dragon. And this, you can go to Samuel Noah Kramer, who wrote his books. I believe one of his first books was I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, it was 1956, if I'm not mistaken, one of his first ones. All right, so the next tab is the event is echoed in the biblical tale of Adam and Eve. Okay, so how long, however, could young female Anunnaki be asked or forced to perform the roles of birth goddesses? Unbeknownst to Enlil, and with the connivance of Sud, Enki contrived to give the new creature one more genetic twist, granting to the hybrid beings incapable of procreating. As all hybrids are the ability to have offspring, the sexual knowing, in quotations, for having children. The event is echoed in the biblical tale of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And although the original Sumerian text of the tale has not yet been found, that's why I say not everything is Sumerian. And he admits that. So you have to use your own mind to understand what's going on. A number of Sumerian depictions of the event were indeed discovered. They show different aspects of the tale. So that's why I say you're going to get different interpretations from different texts. Most of this stuff they're found in schools and sometimes libraries and stuff, in private homes and stuff like that. Let's see. The offering of here we go. They show different aspects of the tale: the tree of life, the offering of the forbidden fruit, the angry encounter that ensued between the Lord God and the serpent. Yet another shows Eve girdled in a garment around her loins while Adam is still naked. So some people know the story that Adam and Eve were both naked. Sometimes there's stories that one is not and one is the other. So that's why I say different interpretations. So you can't just believe one thing. What believe in one thing just means that you're believing in something that goes with your narrative. So if you have a narrative that you want to continue to share, then hey, study one thing and just keep your mind on that. I like to study multiple so I can be educated, so I can actually have a conversation and not hey, trust me, bro, type thing. The Egyptians we have seen held that their gods had come to Egypt from Ur, meaning the olden place. According to Manetho, the reign of Ptah over the lands of the Nile began 17,000 years before Menes, i.e., circa 21,000 BC. 9,000 years later, Ptah handed over the Egyptian domain to his son Ra, but the latter's reign was abruptly interrupted after a brief 1,000 years. So he's basically saying that the Egyptians came from Ur. Well, see, this is where it gets confusing. Okay, so the Egyptian people were a mixture of Mesopotamians, Greeks, and African tribes that were already in Africa at that time. Okay, meaning here we go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah. Oh, okay. So Lil Vibe said his things just kept caught up. Yeah. See. Yeah. This is interesting. Malkuth is sphere of Earth in Kabbalah, and one of the colors used to represent is black material nature of Earth in our experience. Okay. So he's answering the question of the dark hue. So that's interesting, right? Material nature of Earth and in our experience. So yeah, I like that. I like that. I appreciate that. Um, so it's just interesting that he says that the Egyptians came from Europe because the before the Egyptians it was Kemet. So there were already individuals who actually lived in Egypt prior to the mixture, and they were originally indigenous Africans. Now this is where the interesting part comes in. If you know about the Dogon tribe, the ones that had believe in Sirius A and the different Sirius out there, um, the Dogon tribe were supposedly the individuals who inhabited the land of Egypt prior to it. So they were considered possibly the people that are known as the Kemet, the Dogon tribe. Okay. Dog Star, about all that stuff right there. Yeah. And I actually had a podcast discussion with Larry Scranton, who is an author of The Science of the Dogon. And I actually have, I can never say the individual's name who the original, basically the original the individual who got the information from the chief a while back, and I'll go into that. I have the book on that, so I'll be going into that. Here's another tab. In fact, we find more similarities between the Babylonian Marduk and the Egyptian god Ra. The former was the son of Enki, the latter of Ptah. The two Enki, Ptah being in our view and view one and the same, whereas Osiris was the great grandson of Ra and thus of a much later generation than Ra or Marduk. So he's basically saying Ra and Marduk are one and the same. Enki and Ptah, Ptah, is one and the same. And that's interesting to me because he's showing his similarities between the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians. But he's saying the Egyptians came from there. Now, I can tell you that the Egyptian civilization, I've had an opportunity to take a class from a prestigious school from that side of the world also. And just like I did with Dr. Nili Summit from Bar Ilan University, they said that the ancient Egyptian civilization started at 5,500 years ago. And I have an article on my website, rebirthoftheword.com, about that. And I have sources, and you can actually take a course about this. I'm not sure if it's still offered, but I took this class from www.edx.org. I believe it's org.org. And that's where I took the class from. You can take free classes from there. So that's where I got my information from. So that's why I say I can understand why they consider the Sumerian the first civilization, but I understand knowing, and because of my educational background of understanding of what the Sumerians and the Egyptians talked about, because those are my expertise, that along with religion, I know that depending on what you consider a civilization, one came one before the other. And in a lot of cases, even if you use 3200 BC as a medium, and for the Sumerian civilization, I guarantee you, if you look up the Egyptian civilization, it's always 100 years below 3100. So one, they're always saying, well, we know for a fact that it's 3200 BC for this, and we know for a fact that it's 3100 BC for that. But let's just be honest. They're only going off of what? Radiocarbon is probably other different types of dating systems. And guess what? Those dating systems fluctuate left and right. So they're just picking one of the best. They're whoever's saying 3200 over 3200 BC is just picking a number that's higher than every other civilization before that. I'm just being honest with you. That's not me being a jerk or trying to say something negative. That is the facts right there in front of you. If I know that it can range from 5500 to 2800, or 5500, I don't know, let's just say anywhere from 5500 to, I don't know, just pick a number, and I just pick a happy number of 32, because I'm not going to just give a number. I can give different ones, but we'll just say any number that you want to place in between and just say 3200 BC. And that's what they did with the Egyptians, right? I know that's what they did with the Egyptians, even the ones who said that they found the civilization at 5500 BC. So all these civilizations just started at, at 3200 BC, 5500 BC. Hey, you know what? And that's probably how it started. You say, hey, if we're going to start at something, might as well be at a zero, right? You can't say, well, we've been doing this for years before, but we're just going to start the time right here. And then not only that, our calendar changed plenty of times before that. So here we go. Here's another tab. Scholars have recognized an abrupt change in human culture about 11,000 BC, the time of the deluge, according to our findings, and have named that era of the domestication Mesolithic Middle Stone Age, circa around 7400 BC. Exactly 3,600 years later, another abrupt advancement has been recognized. Scholars have named it Neolithic, New Stone Age, but its principal feature was the switch from stone to clay and the appearance of pottery. From stone to clay and the appearance of pottery, and then suddenly and inexplicably, but exactly 3,600 years later, there blossomed out of 3,800 BC in the plain between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, high civilization of civilization. So he says, I guess I'm saying around 3,800 BC, saying Sumerian civilization. Well, let's think about this. First of all, Stone Age, the only reason why the Stone Age is popular is that's what most people use that was in that time frame, right? And we're just going with the middle one. The New Stone Age, right? Because it's actually different names. I don't know why he names it this way, but maybe that's the terms they used it back then. But the New Stone Age, when he says was the principal feature was the switch from stone to clay in the appearance of pottery. Now that's just saying he doesn't really give you a date on he says 3,600 years, right? He says exact, but pottery has always been around. Matter of fact, Samuel Noah Kramer says pottery was one of the Sumerians' first, one of the first to do that, and that's not true because the Ainu people in Japan, AINU, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they had a type of pottery, and then there's also a type of pottery people in Africa around the same time of those individuals that had a type of pottery. What made pottery different was the potter's wheel. So a lot of people, when they think of the wheel, they think of caveman moving the wheel and blah, 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 creating the wheel for a type of transportation or movement or something like that. And it was really just, the movement was really only because of the pottery world. The pottery wheel is where we get the invention of the wheel from. It's not from chariots or anything like that. That's facts. That's not fiction. That's what started the potter's wheel. Let's see. For a while, it was believed that the proof had been found in the smallest one of the three pyramids of Giza, and identified pharaoh who had built it established. The credit for this was claimed by Colonel Howard Weiss. Well, a lot of people already know about Weiss. He came up with all these theories, basically. And I'm just going to tell you right now, it's a lot. So to get a better understanding, go research Colonel Howard Vyse. And you'll see what I'm talking about, because this is actually a lot of information, and it's better to get it from him. And Zachariah Sitchin does touch up on him, so that's why I definitely had that tapped up. because I went to go do my own research to see who he was and what the news actually said about him and what people said of his time and stuff like this one. So the next tab is about Ningajita. So this is what I found about Ningajita, and this is not Zechariah Sitchin was pretty accurate about this too. Also, was that Ningajita was known as Hermes or Thoth, or even Quetzalcoatl and other gods in Cococan in Mesoamerica. I will say this: the only thing that I disagree with Zachariah Sitchin on mainly is that they came from planet Nibiru, no different than what I disagree with Billy Carson on. And the reason why is because Enki, the god who gave us information, is the individual who was the one who was supposedly the one who gave us this technology and stuff. Give me a second, y'all, real quick. All right, I'm back. I'm back at it. So, it's interesting that he had accurate information, but he exaggerated where they came from. Like I said, if he would have had that debate with Dr. Michael S. Heiser to prove where the Anunnaki came from, I don't think I would even be here. Because that's the only thing that I really want to know is what facts do you have that they came from a different planet that orbit the sun every 3,600 years? What facts do you have? Okay, the next tab is about the prisoner and the pyramids. So this is what it's titled. That I guess is the whole chapter. So let me see something real quick. Because if it is, I'm not going to read it. Yeah, it's the prisoner, chapter 10, page 202. Okay, so this is what, if you're interested in buying this book, this is where it says the first paragraph. It says the incident of the Tower of Babel brought to an unexpected end the longest era of peace and on earth, and the man can recall the chain of tragic events the incident had triggered had, we believe, a direct bearing on the Great Pyramid and its mysteries. To resolve them, we shall offer our own theory of how this unique structure had been planned and constructed and plugged and broken into. So that's what he says. And there's a lot. That's why I can't read it. I'm not going to read this whole chapter because even if I read one little paragraph, it's going to be like, I'm going to leave you as a cliffhanger because it's a lot of information. The title is actually The Prisoner of the Pyramid. So it's pretty interesting. We're almost done with this. So we're just going to keep it going. Let's see. All right, this tab is, I guess I got to read the whole thing. Yeah, I have to read the whole thing on that one, so we're gonna skip that. It's a whole chapter for that one too. What chapter was that? Let me go back. The words of God's Amen. Chapter 11. So it was chapter 11, the whole chapter. So if you're interested, go. Yeah, like I said. You see, the next tab says both sources agree on the passage of 480 years, with a difference. One counts from the start of the temple's construction, and other from its completion, when the priestly services could begin. So, what statement is he talking about? The chronological calculations are surprisingly simple. Let's see, what is he talking about? So this must be a whole chapter too, because this starts at the end. So yeah, I guess this is chapter 13, Abraham, the faithful years. The fateful years. That's the chapter that you have to read to me. Yeah, this is like I said, a lot of this stuff is you have to take the time to read it for yourself. I'm just trying to get over. Like I said, I do this to refresh my memory. For me personally, if you want to understand what I'm reading from the actual books, yeah, boom, you'll get it. Yeah, you'll get it because I want to read exactly what I found interesting, and I love having conversations, and I can get more in depth with this. Here's another tab. Scholars have recognized that our present-day calendar is derived from an original Nippurian calendar. All the evidence shows that the Nippurian calendar began around circa 4000 BC in the age of Taurus. So Like I said, dates can change. People can be hit and miss with that. And then there was a jubilation in the land when the great temple was dedicated to Enlil and Ninlil in the year of 1953 BC. It was only then that the cities of Sumer and Akkad were officially declared habitable again. So I guess that's after the war broke out. Yeah, this okay. So here it is. 7 years after the evil wind had desolated Sumer, life began to stir again in the land. But instead of an empire ruling others, Sumer itself was now an occupied land with a semblance of order maintained by Elamite troops in the south and the Gushan soldiers in the north. Now, this is interesting because this war was supposed to be what they consider. Some people would say that there was a nuclear explosion there, and that's why I talked about habitable again. So here, look, so he has in here in his book. This is where it's interesting. This is where everybody gets their. Hold on, let me make this big. This is where everybody gets their timeline for where the Anunnaki. Because Zachariah Sitchin has plenty of them, but the Earth Chronicles timeline chart, right? And this is where he goes 450,000 years, and he goes into what he talked about and stuff like that, right? So the first tab, of course, I hit up was because he says around 450,000 years on Nibiru, a distant member of our solar system, life faces slow extinction as the planet's atmosphere erodes. Deposed by Anu, the ruler Elilu escapes in a spaceship and finds refuge on Earth. He discovers that Earth has gold that can be used to protect Nibiru's atmosphere. So my question is, who was he living among these people? Because it happened and they could only come here every 3,600 years, right? So when he came here at a point in time when it was close enough for them to come here. So by the time he got that message back out to, Nibiru, for them to prep and get everything calculated, I know it took them more than a year to do that. You can't just calculate that all in 1 year, or can you? Because Alelo was able to leave, right? Well, still, it took them 3,600 years, and that means that at the end of the day, who was Alelo living with at that time? Who did he learn from to learn how to survive on a planet that supposedly they never knew? And why did he pick this planet in the first place? Was this the only planet that was close enough to do that? Right? Is this was the only one? And is this the first time they did that? According to what I just read, you don't just up and just go somewhere. You send missions out. So they possibly already knew about this place, right? So we don't know what is actually true. And I can tell you right now at the end, after all I just shared about the Anunnaki, according to Samuel Noah Kramer, there wouldn't have been no reason for them to use a spaceship or a rocket ship, because according to Samuel Noah Kramer, they were deities that weren't seen with the human eye, meaning they were not able to be seen by us. Call that what you want to call that. Or why would they need to jump in the spaceship? Do they have spaceship? Have you ever heard of a ghost having a spaceship? I'm just throw that out there. Hey, I just wanted to share with you guys what I've learned from reading this book. You can purchase my book, Journey Through the Origins of History. Thank you for coming. Yo, Lil Vibe, thank you for showing up and supporting me like always. Always check out Lil Vibe's music. Man, I always keep forgetting about this stuff. That's why I need him to come back on the show to remind me to keep doing this, because I keep forgetting these things, or put it in a message for me. Homie be like, yo, banners. But I usually have a banner for his Spotify account. I'm still trying to figure out how to implement his music into my things on my Rumble account. I have some stuff already pre-recorded, but for the newer ones, I'm going to start having things on there. I have created a Rumble account where it shows where I went to different places around the America so far, and hopefully I'll be able to do it in different countries around the world. But I just started this, so this is something new. But I do have a lot of places already. I already have like 3 other videos already up and ready to go, so I still have time. But I update places like I went to the oldest museum in America just yesterday, which is in Charleston, South Carolina. I got to see some Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Got to see an Egyptian mummified mummy. Got to see a coffin from the Egyptian time frame. So I got to see some of that stuff, and of course the history of South Carolina, because I consider myself the local historian. So I do my state, city, and I do everywhere else that I can possibly go. I even went as far as North Carolina to do Pilot Mountain, which is already on my YouTube, but I will upload that video on my Rumble in the future. Um, Sometime in the near future, I'm going to the oldest city in America, which is in Florida. So I'll be having North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. I have a lot of places in Georgia already. I'm gonna have a lot of places. There's a 1 mile walk when I went to South Carolina where you can visit like 6 different museums and so many different things. So I plan on doing that in the future. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that stuff. If you want to support me, of course I have Cash App, because that's what everybody promotes and stuff like that. I have that, so that will be in my bio and stuff like that. I know a lot of people have asked me in the past in my messenger, hey man, can you send me your Cash App? I'd like to send you something so I can support your work. And they've actually done, so I'm throwing that out there just in case. So you don't have to keep asking me. It's in my profiles on my website. Visit my website, rebirthoftheword.com. Like I said, I have YouTube, I have Facebook, I have Twitter. You type in Rebirth of the W1 or WO1, I'm sorry, on Twitter. Rebirth of the WO1 on Twitter. You'll find me there. You'll find a lot of stuff that I just like this. This is my passion. I just like reading and sharing what I've read. I like to just give the information, that everything that comes to mind. Later on, if you're watching this now, we'll be going live with the Cult Classics. Nick from Occult Classics gave me the opportunity to be on the Occult Rejects team. So I'm with a group of individuals. I'll be promoting their stuff in these banners when I remember them. I gotta just remember them. I appreciate it. Thanks, though. I appreciate it, bro. Like I said, if you want to support my work, just go to my website, rebirthoftheword.com. You can find everything of me on there. I appreciate everybody from coming. Hey, until next time, like I always say, knowledge is power. And, when I say that, I mean that, because guess what? I mean, we got a short life. And until then, you got to do what your passion lets you. And my passion is researching, reading, and sharing this knowledge.